What up? What up? What up? What up? What up? What up? It's your boy Lowski. Headed to handle some business real quick. But I figured while I had this nice little trip, I can go ahead and give y'all some insight. Shout out to Stiller Nation. Shout out to the Rooney family. Shout out to Mike T, Coach Mike T. Shout out to the con artist, conning, doing his con thing. You know what I'm saying? My bad. Yeah, shout out to Con. So, we're going to just jump right on into it. I ain't got no viewers or anything like that, but I ain't nobody pressed about that. I just want y'all to go back and, recap these moments or whatever. So let's go through all the draft. So, first round, we went with Derek Harmon. Now, I'm going to give y'all my insight of Derek Harmon from what I've been hearing and everything else. So with Derek Harmon, that's like Lil Cameron. That's like Lil Cameron Hayward. Lil Cameron Hayward. I'm not mad at a younger Cameron Hayward. He can play first technique through 5 technique. So that means he's just as versatile. You can put him anywhere, right? Which also pairs well with, and I think we just got rid of. I think the word just came out. We just got rid of what's this guy name? Montravius Adams, which he was actually a good, plug-in piece for us for quite some time. But we went on and released him. Don't get me to telling me why exactly. I don't know if it was a cap casualty or anything like that, but it happened. All right, that's part of the business. It is what it is. But Derek Harmon was a great, solid pick. I know a lot of people thought, which I even thought, I'm not going to lie to you, I thought that we were going to go ahead and go Jalen Monroe in the first. I thought that was going to be the biggest, oh my gosh, Come to find out, he slipped all the way to the third round, went to Seattle. I kind of was pissed about it, but then on the opposite end of it, I realized Pittsburgh, we weren't heavily dedicated to finding our franchise quarterback this year because there's so many daggone quarterbacks coming out next year. They got, what's his name, Sellers from South Carolina. We got, what's my boy from Arkansas, that QB. He's pretty decent. They got Arch coming out. They got Drew Allard coming out. It's some talent at the QB position coming out next year, so I feel like there was no big pressing need to actually, get Yay from Wish. I don't know who that is. But I don't think it was a pressing need for us to actually go get a quarterback, which is cool. I'm not really pressed about it. So we got Derek Harmon in the first. Like I said, the first 1 through 5 technique player. If he didn't have that partial torn labrum in his shoulder and everything, if he didn't have that, he was definitely a top 15, no questions. He was no questions a top 13, top 15 pick. So I mean that's all good. Second round, we didn't go back into the second round. Reason being why we didn't go back into the second round was because we got DK Metcalf. And, when you got DK Metcalf, it ain't really no issue or no pressing matter to have to get a DK Metcalf. I mean, to get a position or anything. We didn't necessarily have to trade back into the second round, which is cool. That's fine. You don't have to go back and get a second rounder. That's fine. DK Metcalf is a solid, explosive wide receiver 1. We was good with that. So okay. Whatever we need, and honestly, Pittsburgh just let the draft come to them. But whatever we need, it just end up kind of happen. Likely, at a great chance just being there when we needed it to be there, which is cool. Perfectly fine. We go third round. When we went third round, we got Caleb Johnson. Caleb Johnson was actually a solidified pick. He was really supposed to go in the second. In so many other mocks, he was most definitely supposed to be a second round pick. But he went to the third and landed right where we needed him to. They compare him to Le'Veon Bell, to a patient like DeMarco Murray, a patient running back. Big, patient, and he gonna run through. Once he gets to that second and third level, okay, he's almost like Najee Harrison, but I mean Najee Harrison. I'm sorry, Najee Harris. He's almost like him, but he's more patient. He's more patient, and he fits Arthur Smith's run scheme. So with him fitting that run scheme, he's definitely going to, be that guy for years to come, I believe. And he plugs in well with Jaylen Warren. So with him plugging in with Jaylen Warren really well, and then we got Kenneth Gainwell to come in, periodically and do his thug thizzle and keep it electric, then we're fine. I feel like Warren's going to be our starter for year one. I mean, for not year one, for, his first year in, I think Warren's going to be the starter. I feel like we got Gainwell in the event that Warren gets injured. And he had like a little, hiccup last year where he missed a couple games here and there. And in the event that happens, we don't have to go scounging and looking for running backs in the free agency and everything and have to plug them in and play. Like, that's just in the event that we don't have to do that, which is fine. I'm not really, I'm not tripping. I really don't even mind. So we got him in the third. Fourth round, we end up going with Jack Sawyer. Now, here's my output with Jack Sawyer. I honestly believe that, hold on. Boom, boom, boom. I'm sorry. I'm just kind of now like learning this whole YouTube thing, so I need to go ahead and put a green screen on here down the road. But here's how I feel about Jack Sawyer. TJ Watt wants $40 million, right? And granted, yes, TJ Watt is a more than like capable and generational talent. Absolutely. I feel like Jack Sawyer is a 3-year starter at O State, which you can't be just average and be a starter at O State. You can't just be just all right. You gotta be pretty damn good, in my opinion. I think they in the Big Ten or something like that. You got to be good. So from what I've seen he's capable of taking on these blocks. He's capable of taking on these like that trench work, but he's also not super agile from the edge standpoint. But neither was Nick Herbig, right? Like, I mean, Nick Herbig was athletic, but he wasn't strong. Jack Sawyer is strong, but he's not as athletic. Now, I say with like at least a off season or two, he can be what we're looking at, like from a TJ Watt perspective. I feel like you give him an off season, let him work on his explosiveness, let him get familiar with how the league is kind of adjusted or constructed. You give him about a year or two, and he's gonna be what you need. So do I feel like you should jump out there as far as getting TJ Watt, in the midst of that? I don't think so. I don't believe so. I don't believe that you should give him $40 million. But I do believe that if you are going to make a commitment like that, don't make a long-term commitment. He's 31. Give him until he's like 30. Give him till like 33 and just kind of work it down for a couple years at a time. Now, do I feel like Pittsburgh's going to do that? No, because just like how they do with Cameron Hayward, just like how they do with Ben Roethlisberger, just like how they do with any like Marcus Pouncey, like just like anybody who's like Steelered in, they're going to give you the money, period. They don't care what everybody says. They don't care what the cap situation is. We'll work out the cap situation. However, this is what we plan on doing. And I feel like with the speculations that we're supposed to be bringing back Aaron Rodgers and everything else, I feel like that's still a possibility for us to. And I mean, from what I heard also as well, Aaron said he'll play for 10. He said, look, I'm not trying to break the bank, but I feel like the only reason he's saying that I'm going to play for 10, and I'm going to get back to Jack Sawyer, but the reason why I feel like he's saying that he's going to play for 10 million is because he wants that leverage to where, okay, we got enough cap space. So if I'm working with, some of these guys on the roster, and I feel like this guy doesn't fit, or, he's going to have say-so because he's a Hall of Fame quarterback, and he's, Super Bowl winner, a lot of these things. So his is going to mean something. So I feel like with that in case, or with that also, something that to consider, that's where I feel like, okay, well, he's still gonna say, hey, I want Lazard, or I want this person, or I want that person, and Pittsburgh gonna be like, okay, well, we'll get him. If that's gonna improve your quarterback play, and you feel like with the scheme that we have going on, that's gonna upgrade it, all right, we're gonna listen to you, we're gonna do it. But when it does not work, or if, I'm not gonna say, but when, if it does not work, okay, listen, bro, like, this is what you got. If you can't make it work, then we gotta talk. We gotta hit the room. We gotta figure out something, because we kind of bypassed a lot of opportunities in the draft this year for a scheme that we thought would probably work better, elsewhere or something else. But hey, we gotta figure it out. But I think it's gonna work out. I think it shouldn't be that big of a deal. I think we will figure it out ultimately, and it's gonna work out how it's supposed to. But yeah, back to Jack Sawyer. I feel like that was the most people that I seen, talking about it were saying, oh yeah, like this is the goodbye TJ Watt pick. I'm like, nah, not necessarily. I don't feel like that's necessarily the goodbye pick. That's more of the hey, it's time for you to mentor some folks. Like Nate Herbig, I feel like is the future edge rusher. And I know that's kind of like wild to say, right? I feel like he's the future edge rusher of our defense, just because when he comes in, here and there, he actually like is effective. But I feel like, we got Alex Highsmith for the next couple of years. TJ's on his final year of his contract. I don't think TJ is going to be pressed about the money situation until the end of the offseason, and when it's time to do contracts and everything else. Now, I think he'll come with an approach like, okay, y'all want me to play on this something odd $1 million, 20-something odd, 30-something odd $1 million? Okay, I'll play on it. But at the end of the season, let us win a ring. I want to be the highest paid, point blank. Like, that's kind of where he's like kind of envisioning it. And then at that point, he can go ahead and leave. Just like with GP, he can go ahead and leave. We're not even about to do this. That's kind of how I feel about it. Like, I don't feel like he should even do that. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that we should even put ourselves in a financial bind like that. Reason being also as well is I feel like there's too many schemes, too many opportunities to bring in younger, like how we did with Jack Sawyer and how we did with Nate Herbig. It's too many options coming out of the draft, and too many younger options that know how to get to that quarterback, or at least know how to put enough pressure on that quarterback to where we suffice. We'll be fine. Like, TJ Watt is, yes, granted, a generational talent. I understand that. But we also understand that he's definitely, in my opinion, better than his brother. But for how long, though? For how long are you willing to put a 4-year commitment behind somebody? You're willing to put 4 years behind somebody who's eventually going to deteriorate. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like we should have already learned our lesson when it became to Ben Roethlisberger. When it came to Big Ben, we should have learned that then. Like, hey, like, you could put $10, $20 million behind this quarterback, but in all actuality, he's not going to stay like a same Super Bowl champion, quarterback, especially if you're not putting the talent around him. Now, with TJ, that's different. We actually are putting the talent around him. The only thing that we're saying is, hey, look, we gave you the big money. Just stay down for this 1 year, and then let us figure out this contract situation. And honestly, it ain't got nothing to do with TJ, and I think that's his aspect. Like, I think that's where his viewpoint is. Like, hey, this has nothing to do with me. Like, pay me. I don't care what y'all got going on. Y'all just gave him $10 million guaranteed. Y'all about to bring this other quarterback in $10 million guaranteed. Y'all just gave DK Metcalf $150 million for 5 years. Oh no, run that. I want all my money. And I can see that, and I can respect it. I can stand behind that. You know what I'm saying? I get it. However, However, I feel like we have to observe a few things so we know how to move moving forward. We have to observe GP. How is his conduct going to be before we give him the bag? Or we could just go away with him and even think to like have to pay him no money. We could just go ahead and get I don't know if he's been eligible. If he's eligible, it's up. But I'm thinking about Jeremiah Smith. But I think he was a freshman last year. I think you can only come out your junior year. So I think he got to do one more year and then come out. Which, honestly, if the Will Howard, well, I'm sorry, man, I still ain't got on to the 6th round pick, but I'm gonna bring that around. But it's still receivers that aren't George Pickens, but you have George Pickens' capabilities, and we also are great at developing receivers. So we can find a stud in the 4th or 5th round next year or something like that and bring him in, and he can do the exact same thing. We also still have Roman Wilson. We also still have, what's my guy's name? Calvin Austin. Calvin Austin, I think his contract year is this year too, but we're not talking about it. But honestly, I feel like Calvin Austin's at a point where, like, okay, I missed my first year because I got injured. Okay. My second year, I got in, I played a little bit here and there. My third year, which is I think this actually might be his third year. I apologize. Not his contract year. This is his third year. Because the first year he was injured. This second year he actually played. This is his third year. So I think, if anything, he's going to make a stamp for whether or not either we're going to keep you here, we'll keep you here, and then we'll just, give you about $6 million, $7 million, $8 million maybe for like 4 years, give you a $30-something million contract. And, you're not even a prime time receiver to where you're going to be playing every snap. And that's another thing I also consider as well, too. Like, you can't really get too upset with not getting the big bag if you're not utilized, like, the big bag. Like, TJ played for all $20-something million of that because he was on every snap and he was, being productive. I'm not saying that Calvin Austin's not productive. But I'm just saying, like, on the production side of things, do you really feel like you're deserving of it? You see what I'm saying? Like, and that's all the whole knack I'm getting at when it comes to that. Yeah, so we have a lot of things that we got to be observant of first. We also got to be observant of Minkah Fitzpatrick. We don't know whether or not Minkah Fitzpatrick still has it anymore, or if we need to go into a different direction as far as either, if we were going to trade him, I think last year was the year to trade him. But being that now we didn't make that jump to actually trade him, I think now we're at a standpoint where we have to, man. Hey, we gotta cut ties. We gotta eventually cut ties because, you're costing too much money. You was the highest paid safety in the league, and your output didn't look like it. So, unless this year he has like a prime time, game changing, like, it's really between Minkah and TJ who's going to get the bag. Now, if Minkah can actually, which is going to be harder for Minkah because you have to keep up with the Devontae Smiths of the world. You got to keep up with the AJ Browns. You got to keep up with, you got to actually make a tackle with Derrick Henry. We're not going to hint, clue. You got to actually, like, show that, hey, listen, I'm still worth this money, But if you don't, then, okay, yeah, we're going to let you walk. And we'll see if, you still end up having a position elsewhere, But last year was just an eye-opener. Like, okay, you must have went to sleep last year, as far as with your impact, And that's kind of what I feel like. I feel like he kind of went to sleep. Moving forward, that's what we got to be patient for. But that's where I feel like that 4th round pick kind of stemmed from. Like, okay, listen, TJ, like, we don't want you to hold the team hostage, but we'll go get like a leader, a defensive leader in the 4th round, which also was a sneaky one because I think a lot of people didn't realize he was still on the board. So with him still being on the board, he's not as athletic. That's fine. We can work on. You can go to an NFL team and gain and develop, which I feel like that's what gonna be his role this year, which is fine. I feel like the reason we got rid of Montravius Adams is because we had a stud or a big body in Yaya. I don't care what nobody's talking about. I'm gonna call him Yaya Black. We got Yaya Black in the fifth. He was pretty good. He's actually pretty. He's a big body. Like that's. I mean, what's the Coach T said? He was like, "Hey man, that's a F-350 right there. A F-350 with a V8 engine. Well, not a V8 engine. I'll say V6 because it's not all that fast. But hell, you get hit with a F-350 with a V6 engine, your ass is grass. You know. So he's gonna be good. I feel like he's gonna be a good developmental piece. You can put him on the line with Derek Harmon and Keanu Benton. Keanu Benton, not Keanu Benton. You can put him down there. He's gonna actually they're gonna make that's a physical line. I feel like the biggest reason why we went so heavy on that line is because and I think all Steelers talk. I forgot my guy's name. He mentioned it. He was just like, "Hey man, like I think they don't want to get ran on. Like we can do what we need to do in the air, but we can't keep getting ran on. You know what I'm saying? Like I get that. Put some big boys down there, and that's gonna force teams to have to run outside. And if they can run outside, oh yeah, we got them because TJ's gonna seal up that edge. Highsmith is gonna seal up that edge, and if you like Patrick Queen or Peyton Willis, it's gonna seal that edge. I mean, not seal that edge, but it's gonna meet them out there in a free, like a one-on-one tackle. And Patrick Queen, I think he had a few missed tackles last year, but I think this year he's gonna have a lot to prove because we signed him on a 3-year. And your first year, wasn't as productive as we thought that it would be. Which okay, we're gonna let it slide because certain aspects to consider. It just wasn't there. Okay, we get it, but we're gonna let that year slide. We're gonna let it go through, and then after this year, we're gonna we're gonna consider some things because hey, listen, we gave you some money, but I feel like he's gonna actually perform this year. Like he knows, he understands like the last place you want to be in the last place that you want to be is where Minkah Fitzpatrick is, to where the next year is your contract year, and your output of the previous season wasn't where it needed to be. So I think it's gonna be a lot of more intensity. Pray to God that he doesn't get injured. But if he doesn't get injured and he actually, goes for it, he's gonna ball out. Peyton Wilson, he's gonna do the same thing as well. He's on his rookie contract, but he was definitely capable of doing a lot more last year. But I think he was just letting the game come to him. The game speed was the game speed, but he was letting the game come to him, and he's a playmaker. I can see it. He will still run down that line with 2 ACLs torn, by the way. He'll still run down that line and smack you right in the mouth. And I like, and that's what we like in our linebackers. Is a linebacker who's gonna go down there and not be scared to smack you right in the snout or whatever we got to do. And I like that. I like that a lot. I like that a whole lot. And I'm pretty sure that's the Steeler football. That's just bottom line. That's what it is. So he's gonna be all right. That's why I feel like we went on and got that 5th round pick in Yaya. I'm sorry, y'all. I had to charge my phone. But that's why we got that in Yaya. Our 6th round pick, mind you, I said Yaya Smith in the 5th, and that's the exact same round that Shedeur went in. I'm not gonna get into that Shedeur thing right now. I'm talking about my Steelers, but I will recap, or I will round it up at the end about that Shedeur situation. But overall, in the 6th round, when I say we got a sleeper, Will Howard in the 6th, that was the 185th pick. That was the one that I feel like everybody's going to be sorry of. Like, I'm not going to say Will Howard is going to be the next Brady or nothing like that, but I will say that he dropped perfectly like where we needed him to drop to. Like, that was perfect. I'm like, thank God you dropped where we needed you to drop. Thank you. Will Howard's a winner. yes, granted, I understand the fact that he did go to the Ohio State University, Buckeyes Nation, baby. He did go to O State, and he did have significant amount of talent all around him. However, it still doesn't negate the fact that when the game counted and it was about something, he actually made the plays to do it. Point blank, period. If you feel like that, then you're saying that Tua Tagovailoa isn't a good quarterback or isn't like, a a great quarterback, which he is. Like franchise quarterback, they invested franchise money into him. So, but overall, like he's still a very good quarterback. I feel like he needs about a couple. The same way how we had we were saying if we was to get Jalen Milroe in the third, but we got our running back, so I'm not tripping. But the same way how we said we got Jalen Monroe, we're going to let him develop under Rodgers for a couple years and then, get back out there and do that. That's the same way. That's the same kind of development Will Howard was going to need. They had Quentin Ayers, they had Will Howard, they had Jalen Monroe were going to be the guys that we were going to bring in. We weren't going to bring in nobody who was going to start today. You see what I'm saying? Like, well, when the season started, he was going to be a starter now. We weren't going to do that because, like I said previously, our starter is going to come out of next year's draft. Our franchise player is going to come out of next year's draft. I feel like even if Aaron Rodgers decided to say, hey, I want to sign for 2 years, give me $20 million, 2 years, I'll retire here. Cool. And the caveat to that is if he does come to us and retire with us, God willing that we get a ring. We get a ring behind that. The last time that we went to the Super Bowl, he was the quarterback that kept us out that made sure we lost. And when I say I think Tomlin has nightmares or had nightmares about that to this day, he does, for sure. But he also knows that Aaron Rodgers knows the game so well that he can predict everything. He knows plays, he knows the time and place, he knows teams, he knows schemes, he knows coaches. That's what people don't really understand. He knows coaches to where he knows where, okay, this coach, yeah, he plays like this or he does this. He plays this scheme against these kind of players. If he does this, more than likely he's going to do this. And if he does this, then he's like a chess player, like an extremely great chess player. And that's why I think Tomlin has more trust in him than anybody that's not on the roster. Like, not for nothing, he knows that, golly, he knows that, like, what they're capable of or what they're going to be capable of. And hypothetically, let's say Aaron Rodgers doesn't sign with us, or he doesn't sign, or he just says, I'm going to just retire. Hey, you know what? Mason Rudolph is not a bad option. He's not terrible. He's just not the Joe Burrows and the Lamar Jacksons and all that of the world and everything else. And to be honest, only thing that we're going to be doing is repeating the Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky kind of ordeal. But we're doing it at a very cheaper rate and getting a lot more talent out of that situation. Because Mitch Trubisky, I mean, he was decent, right? He was decent. He wasn't great. No. When he left Chicago, he wasn't great. It was just honestly, I think we seen a lot in him in Buffalo, and was like, oh, okay, shoot, if you're playing like this in Buffalo, you should come on to Pittsburgh. You know what I'm saying? We'll give you some guaranteed money, and, we'll do something. And he looked like, dog shit. But I think the only reason that he looked like dog shit was because he wasn't on the same accord with all his receivers. He wasn't on the same accord with the offensive coordinator, and everybody has to be on the exact same accord. You have to be in sync with your, your receivers, and he wasn't. I think there was a report that him and Deontay Johnson got into it during the Jets game, one of those years or whatever. Him and Deontay Johnson got into it, and once they got into it, it was just like, okay, well, I think they said Deontay ended up getting traded, and then, they just kept moving along. But also, it was Kenny Pickett still on the roster, and they weren't, like, expecting or wanting Kenny Pickett to get started so early. But I think it was after week 7, week 8, they was like, you know what? Hey, they're calling for it. They're calling for it. Like, just put the boy out there. Let him play. And he was decent. But he played like a rookie. He played like a rookie. He played like, you know, I'm trying to manage the game in a sense, but I'm also trying to make something happen. But, I think it was the city of Pittsburgh that was rooting for him so heavy to where it kind of took over the front office, to where the front office is like, yeah, just put him in. Let him play. Like, let him do that. And then before you know it, we were trying to tell him, or trying to bring competition in the locker room, or just on the team. Hey, we're bringing in Russell, but you're gonna learn from Russell, and Russell's gonna teach you some things, or whatever the case may be, so that way you can be. We weren't bringing in Russell on a long term. So Kenny just felt like, okay, well, y'all bringing somebody else in, and y'all drafted me in the first. Okay, I want to trade. I want to leave. And since then, he has not been a starter. Like, yeah, you got a ring. You got a ring with Philly. Congratulations, and you're from Philadelphia, cool. But the next year they trade you. But you didn't do any, like, yeah, you played a couple games, but you didn't do anything significant to, like, say, oh yeah, I took my team to the Super Bowl. That wasn't you. They already had their guy. They just said, okay, look, we'll get some picks at the end of this, or we'll give a couple picks away. We'll get a little Kenny Pickett. He's from Philadelphia, or he's from not Philadelphia. He's from Pittsburgh, and he played at Pitt and everything else. Okay, cool. But it wasn't like nothing significant to where it's like he done nothing. But that's not to like shit on Kenny Pickett or nothing like that. But that's just the nature of what it was. So shortly after that, he wanted to trade, and then at that point we had the quarterback room of Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, and it was for cheap, and honestly, I feel like we handled that not Russell Wilson. We handled that Justin Fields situation poorly, because in actuality, we wanted to bring back Justin Fields, but I think it was certain guarantees after the first year we didn't want to commit to, and that was only because we wanted to. We internally wanted to bring in Rodgers. That's just really what it was. It wasn't he wasn't good enough. He was good. He's still good. He shouldn't have even got pulled in the season. Let's just call it what it is. He should have never got pulled. He should have played until he just showed us different. And then once he showed us different, then we should have moved on. But if we would have let him play until he just showed us different and then brought in Russell, then it would have been different. But it was so political. It was a political move. It was a political situation where, okay, well, he's really, technically, he's making $30 million a year. So we brought him in for a veteran man, and like, like that didn't make any sense. I feel like we kind of like, fell on our own knife on that one. And Justin would have definitely been willing to, if we would have just gave him the keys, say, hey, Justin, look, we're going to give you the keys, and we're going to, build this around, like how New York is doing, which I feel like they're doing right. They're trying to give him the keys and build around him and say, hey, cool. But in retrospect to that, though, they only gave him a 2-year. And then they guaranteed $20 million. So they guaranteed you your first year. And that's kind of what we were trying to give him. Like, the guarantees no guarantees after your first year, which he's on a 2-year, $40 million deal. But he just wanted to be the guy. And I think that's what his whole thing was. I just want to be the starter. I want to be the starter. And he was going to be guaranteed the starter if he came back. If we took the money, he would have been the starter. We wouldn't even looked at quarterback. We would have said, you know what, Justin wants to be here. And you know how Tomlin is, we want volunteers, not hostages. We don't want nobody who feels like you gotta be here. No, if you don't want to be here, you won't be here. How about that? So that's really bottom line what it was. So sorry, I didn't smoke work. I've been talking. But like moving on. Will Howard, like I said, he's a winner. Moving forward, he's a winner. Bottom line, he is a winner. He was good. He's also mobile to an extent. He's broke for some runs before. He's not scared to run the ball. He doesn't have to run a 4.4. He doesn't have to have electrifying speed, but he's definitely fast enough to, get on the horse if it's time to get on the horse. I think his biggest struggle is just going to have to be getting familiar with, blitz schemes and disguise coverages and what to do while this coverage is disguised, because it happens so often in the league, and especially when they know that you haven't been in the league that long. They often do that with rookie quarterbacks. Okay, hide this and scheme it this way, and then just do this, because once you do it that way, it's gonna make them be like, oh, okay, yeah, I got to do this. Like it's natural, it's nature. Like that's just what it is. So yeah, like it's like that. It's like that. Yeah, he gonna be just fine. But he's gonna have to at least have a year, and he's gonna have to go to practice, and he's gonna have to play in practice, and he's gonna have to like get familiar with how they do in practice, because the league defense, and this is coming from my own football experience, defense isn't nowhere remotely near as complicated as offense is. Offense, you have to learn and know so much. You have to be a smarter player. You have to be a smarter person to be an offensive player than you have to be on defense. Defense is about instinct, schemes, and just doing your job. If everybody's doing their job on defense, everybody looks like a pro. Everybody looks like they know what they're doing. And if you're great at your job, then it stands out. Then they're like, okay, yeah, whatever job that he has, he's doing it well, because he's strong, he's agile, he's instinctive, all of that stuff. It all comes together. But if you're not that, then it's just not gonna, like I said, it's just not gonna line up correctly. But he's cool. We gonna see. I feel like we're gonna see what the best. I'm more so looking towards that battle, the QB battle for QB2, and that's what's gonna be between Mason Rudolph and Will Howard. We already know who's gonna be. We don't technically know, but we kind of do know. Like, I feel like Tomlin and Khan know, but they're not letting the world know what's gonna happen. But we kind of already know. But it's all on Aaron. When Aaron, and I also read something too that I think like after May 1st, there's like some kind of roster designated bonus that he's supposed to be given. And I think that's what we're ultimately waiting on. We're waiting on after that roster designation is paid from the Jets, then we can pick him up without having to say we have to pay more money or anything like that. I think he just want to sting the Jets one good time before he leaves. Like, yeah, and y'all paid me my roster bonus, and I'm out, and I'm gonna play for $10 million with the Steelers. Like, so all that money that y'all gave me, appreciate it, and y'all cut me, cool. So that's fine. But I think it's like a roster designation bonus, some kind of payment is supposed to be had after or before by May 1st. And if he's not on the team, then he's not to have the team that picks him up doesn't have to pay it. I think his last team has to pay that. And once the last team pays it, then we can go ahead and I think the same way how we did with Russell. Russell paid. He played for he got $1 million from us, but Denver had to pay him $30 million for that season, even though he wasn't there. You know what I'm saying? And it's kind of working out for them. That's they had to bite that bullet and they had to spend that money, which is it is what it is. But now with Aaron, I feel like after the draft, going towards OTAs, maybe even training camp, that's when we'll know for sure if he's coming or he's not coming. But we're gonna see, man. We're gonna see. And in that 7th round pick, I think it was Dante Kent from Central Michigan, and this is gonna be a dogfight for the nickel. I think Beanie Bishop's gonna be in there, Brandon Echols, him, and one more slot corner. I can't recall at the moment, but those 4 are gonna be there. So with them 4 being there, okay, it's gonna be a dogfight. Now Corey Trice, Joey Porter Jr., Darius Slay, I think it's 2 other corners that's on that outside, and they're like 6'2", 6. I think we just like our corners like pause. I think we like our corners like big and big and whatever. So I feel like with that, we're gonna see like how that's gonna pan out. I think this is gonna be make it or break it for JPJ. Either you have like a top 5 or a top 10 season, or we're already planning for who we're gonna replace you with. Slade, he's on a 1-year deal. that's just hopefully to mentor JPJ to like, hey, look, this is what you have the potential to be. We tried to do that with Patrick Peterson. Or we did. I ain't say we tried to. We did, because that was his first year in the league. So you've seen Patrick Peterson, you've seen Darius Slay. We're going to bring in some veteran experience to kind of like, put you on game to what we need you to do, because he already knows how to do it, like, because he's been doing it for a long time. So we'll try to do it one more time, with Darius Slay. And depending on what we come up with is what we're going to, is what we're going to end it out with, So we'll see. We're going to see. We're going to really bring this together. I feel like this is probably the best Steelers team we had in a little bit, but we'll know once we go to training camp and when we put them pads on and, we actually start week 1. So, appreciate y'all going through the first 7 rounds with me. We're gonna see what the results gonna look like in due time. All right, Steelers Nation, let's go. Talk to y'all soon.